by the solicitors firm Harbottle and Lewis?
Yes, I didn't appoint them, but I was told of it happening.
You claimed in the Wall Street Journal that Harbottle and Lewis had made a major mistake. Can I ask what mistake you were referring to?
I think maybe that's a question again for James, but there was certainly, when we examined it, re-examined that, we found things which we immediately went to counsel with to get advice on how to present it to the police.
In their written response to this committee's questions, are you aware that News International stated that both John Chapman and Daniel Cloak reviewed these emails before forwarding them to Harbottle and Lewis?
No.
So that nobody in the company told you that two of your executives had reviewed the emails back in...
I thought that I was under the understanding that everything had been sent to them.
Okay. You are aware that Lord MacDonald QC has since reviewed the emails again on behalf of News International, are you not?
Yes.
You're aware that he stated he found evidence
and he's reported to the whole board of News.
He did?
News Corporation.
And you're aware that he stated to the board that he found evidence of indirect hacking, breaches of national security, and evidence of serious crime in the Harbottle and Lewis file?
Oh, he did indeed.
Mr. Watson, please, I can address these in some detail if you would allow me.
I will come to you, Mr. Murdoch, but it's your father who's responsible for corporate governance. I'd like to ask what he knew, but I will come back to you. Who was aware of Harbottle and Lewis findings at News International?
He went to the senior officials of News.Corp, certainly the top legal officer.
So Tom Crone or Les Hinton?
No.
No. Were you informed
They
about
they were not the top legal officers.
Who are the top legal officers?
You can answer
Mr. John Chapman was the top legal officer at News International, and Mr. Crone was the head of legal affairs at News Group Newspapers.
And were you informed about the findings by your son, Mr. Murdoch, or by Rebecca Brooks?
I forget, but I expect it was my son. I was in daily contact with them both.
Okay. When were you informed about the payments made to Gordon Taylor and Max Clifford?
No.
You were not informed?
No.
At no point you knew that Taylor and Clifford were made payments?
I never heard of
Okay.
the first one.
You never informed the Chief Executive of News.Corp that you authorised payment of £500,000?
Would you like me to answer the questions now, Mr. Watson?
I'd like you to tell me whether you informed your father that you had authorised payment to Gordon Taylor as a result of him being a victim of a crime.
The settlement with Mr. Taylor, and I'm happy to address the matter of Mr. Taylor in some detail if you would like.
First, let me know.
My father became aware after the settlement was made in 2009, I believe, after the confidential settlement had become public, as a newspaper reported on the out-of-court settlement afterwards. But please understand that the settlement of an out-of-court settlement of a civil claim of that nature and with that of that quantum is something that normally in a company our size, the responsible executives in the territory, in the country, would be authorized to make, and that's the way the company has functioned, and it's below the approval thresholds, if you will, that would have to go to my father as chairman and chief executive of the global company.
There are other questions I could ask on this, but there are other colleagues who have specific questions to you, Mr. Murdoch, about this issue, so I'll move back to your father if I can. Mr. Murdoch, at what point did you find out that criminality was endemic at News of the World?
Endemic is a very wide-ranging word, and I also had to be extremely careful not to prejudice the course of justice which is taking place now. That has been disclosed. I became aware as it became apparent. There was two, and then I was absolutely shocked, appalled and ashamed when I heard about the $1 million case only 2 weeks ago, 8 days before I saw them. It was graciously received by the Dallas.
Did you read our last report into the matter where we referred to the collective amnesia of your executives who gave evidence to our committee?
I haven't heard that, but
nobody brought
I
it
don't
to
know
your
who made
attention.
that particular charge, but it's,
So a parliamentary inquiry found your senior executives in the UK guilty of collective amnesia, and nobody brought it to your attention. I don't see why you think that's not very serious.
yes, but you're really not saying amnesia, you're really saying lying.
Well, we found your executives guilty of collective amnesia. I would have thought that someone would like to bring that to your attention, that it would concern you. Did they forget?
No.
Okay. Whilst it has been obvious to most observers from the summer of 2009 that phone hacking was widespread, you knew for sure in January of this year that the One Rogue Reporter line was false. Is that right?
I forget the date.
Why was Edmondson the only person to leave News of the World last January?
Mr. Watson, we have given all our files and all our knowledge and everything to the police. They have not given us the Mulcair diaries, so we do not know what was in that. And that there was a page which appeared to be addressed to him. Again, that's my son's.
Mr. Watson, perhaps it would be, and Mr. Chairman, perhaps it would be helpful to the committee if you would like to go through any of the particular detail around why decisions were made by the management team at News International and the precise chronology. It would be more helpful, perhaps, if I could answer those questions as the chief executive of the regional businesses across Europe. I have somewhat more proximity to it.
I understand the detail points.
I'm simply offering to help to clarify.
Has been brought about in the company, and it's revealing in itself what he doesn't know and what executive chose not to tell him. So with respect to you, I will pursue my line of questioning and come back to you later. Mr. Murdoch, why was no one fired in April when News International finally admitted that News of the World had been engaged in criminal interception of voicemails?
It was not our job to get it in the course of justice. It was up to the police to bring those charges and to carry out their investigation, which we were 100% cooperating with.
But in April, the company admitted liability for phone hacking, and nobody took responsibility for it then. No one was fired. The company admitted that they'd been involved in criminal wrongdoing, and no one was fired. Why was that?
There were people in the company which apparently were guilty, and we have to find them and we have to deal with them appropriately.
Mr. Watson, if I can clarify, most of the individuals involved or implicated in the allegations that were there had long since left the company. Some that were still there, you mentioned one, exited the business as soon as evidence of wrongdoing was found. And a process was set up in cooperation with the police to aid them with any of those things that they wanted to do. But many of the individuals that were potentially implicated in those civil litigations and potentially in these criminal matters had already left the building and were not in the News of the World at this time. And current News of the World, our News of the World executives and journalists at the time, many of whom were not there in 2006 and 2007, so it was that some of them had already left.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Murdoch, Why did you decide to risk the jobs of 200 people before pointing the finger at those responsible for running the company at the time of the illegality? Your son and Rebecca Brooks.
When a company closes down, it is natural for people to lose their jobs. We have, in this case, and are making this continuing, every effort to see that those people are employed in other divisions of the company if they're not part of the small group, or I don't know how big the group, whatever group was involved in criminality.
Did you close it because of the criminality?
Hmm?
Did you close the paper down because of the criminality?
Yes, we felt ashamed of what had happened and thought we ought to bring it to a close.